ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Veteran Uncensored. My name is Chris Rodriguez. We are live here, and we got a lot of news to talk about. All right. Again, Chris Rodriguez, U.S. veteran, here to talk about all things latest world news. The USA. Are we going to be involved in another war? Well, that's going to be up to President Trump, of course, and we're going to get into that, all of that. We're going to be reacting to two big interviews that went really viral when it comes to Mr. Piers Morgan. He's known about covering this issue of Israel versus Hamas, and of course, Israel versus Iran, and basically the war in the Middle East that should be stopped, to be honest, but it looks like things are continuing to heat up. Business is picking up, ladies and gents, and it might just be that the United States of America are going to be involved. Maybe this is not going to be, I'm going to give you my opinion, right? But maybe it's not going to be really an involvement in full war with military personnel. This is probably just going to be decimation of certain nuclear facilities, nuclear bomb facilities that Iran has, and then after that, it'll still be Israel and Iran, and of course, or maybe the U.S. is going to try to help Israel overcome the regime and bring a new regime in Iran. I don't know if that's going to be the case or not, but it'll be really interesting to get your opinion. So please let us know what you think in the comment section below in the live chat. In the live section, we are live on Rumble. We are live on YouTube, 8 p.m. Central Time of the USA. Just about to be 2 minutes away from being 8 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and of course, what would it be? 2 hours before, 2 hours, 6 p.m., almost 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Maybe so. Anyways, music off, ladies and gents. Come on, music off. Let's take that out. Take it out immediately. Let's talk about some news, ladies and gents, before we start reacting to certain interviews. We got to talk about, again, we're going to be reacting to Piers Morgan, as he got into a fierce debate today with George Galloway. And to be honest, I just couldn't stand George Galloway and what the way he was speaking, making no sense. But we're going to get into that. We're going to be reacting to Piers Morgan against Cenk Uygur as well, who, again, he just cannot get away from his bias against anything that has to do with Israel. So we're going to react to that as well. And of course, Professor Marandi, who couldn't just stop adding the ad hominem attacks and just answer a damn question. He couldn't do that to save his life. And this is not it's not about Israel, Iran, whose side are you on? It doesn't matter. Stop your attacking, personal attacks, and actually debate. That's what you were there to do. He couldn't do that, and apparently he was getting bombed as well. And it's unfortunate that happened. But at the end of the day, he stayed for the interview, and so wasn't able to really do that. He just decided to attack Piers Morgan personally. So, but we're gonna react to that, of course. No problem there. We just want to read a couple of news. As the White House says, the U.S. forces remain in defensive posture in Middle East. The White House stated that the U.S. forces are in a defensive posture in the Middle East during Israel-Iran conflict, according to the White House spokesperson. Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth confirmed that the military is positioned defensively to pursue peace in the region. A U.S. defense official noted as well that Nimitz Carrier Strike Group was deployed to enhance the U.S. defensive posture and protect American personnel. That's going to be very important. There's a lot of U.S. personnel and U.S. military in the Middle East, and that we need to keep protected. That's going to be something that President Trump has been talking about with different people within the Situation Room to see how those people cannot be affected. American people cannot be affected. And, of course, all travel. By the way, if you're trying to travel to Iran, that's not a good time. Just don't do it. The travel agency will tell you, you got to follow these steps and stay away from this area. Just don't do it. Why would any American want to go to Iran right now? Even Israel, it is still very much, you can travel to Israel. That's not stopping. But If you can't, just avoid it. It's plain and simple. Also, the military movement coincides with the ongoing air conflict between Israel, Iran, raising international concerns for de-escalation. So a lot of countries want to de-escalate the situation. It feels like that's not happening. It's very much escalating as the hours go by. And a lot of even Republican MAGA members calling out for peace, calling out for the U.S. to not get involved in another war. That's what President Trump ran on, not to start wars. And unfortunately, this doesn't seem like it's helping, although you got to look at it objectively. I personally, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look in the sense that we're being a part of another war. But at the end of the day, you got to zoom out and look at the bigger picture. And right now, the bigger picture is that we cannot, for the life of anybody, let Iran have nuclear weapons. And by the way, this is Tel Aviv right now, live images from Tel Aviv. We had images of bombing, and so that was crazy. But now everything seems to be tranquil, and people are sleeping just fine over there. I don't know exactly what the time is right now, but Tel Aviv seemed to be right now, for the most part, in peace. But yeah, earlier today it was a bit chaotic, to say the least, folks. It was a bit chaotic. There were a lot of buildings burning down, and so Israel is still landing a couple of punches. So don't let people tell you otherwise. Iran is landing some punches. To be honest, that's going to be their main focus, is just to land missile strikes. If they can get them through the Iron Dome, which most of them have been intersected, of course. But regardless, they will land some, and Israel knows that they will have some casualties, but they're looking at the bigger picture as well. Trump says, by the way, this is from earlier today, that Trump says that the U.S. knows where Iran's Khamenei is hiding, but won't kill him, and for now, and demands unconditional surrender. That means no conditions, just surrender. The regime is over. So it went from giving up your nuclear weapons to surrender unconditionally. To the regime is over. And I tell you what, a lot of Iranian people are very excited about this. I'm sure some are not. Some like the regime. I don't know how, and I don't know how anybody can really deny what this regime has been doing to Iran, to the Persian people, who have always been great and wonderful people. But they have been decimated by this regime for over 50 years, and I don't understand how just people can't see that. I mean, yeah, you don't have to like Israel if you don't want to, but the fact of the matter is, these are subjugated people. These are discriminated people in Iran. That have nothing to do with the regime. So anybody that tries to justify them and their regime, they're a terrorist regime, and they fund and train and they call for death of America, and of course Israel as well. But we're Americans here. We worry about America, and we cannot. I just don't understand how American people can defend the indefendable. It just makes no sense to me whatsoever. But you let me know. I mean, I may be crazy. I don't know. At this point, I don't know anymore. Regardless, we're going to continue on. And how about we react to the first part of the interview, where there was a panel in Piers Morgan show, a panel of 4 people, including 5 people, including Piers, and they start going on about the Israel strikes to Iran. Shall we? Let's react to this one. Piers Morgan Uncensored, Iran versus Israel, or Israel versus Iran.
The panel, Cenk, I could see you reacting pretty violently to what you were hearing there. So what is your response to what you heard from the ambassador?
Yeah, when Israeli officials speak, it's like they're in fantasy land. They leveled Gaza. And the reason that they leveled Gaza is because they're going to take Gaza. And that's not speculation anymore. When those of us who were opposed to their war crimes and genocide said they were going to take Gaza, that it had nothing to do with self-defense, it had to do with land acquisition, as all the wars that Israel starts has to do with. They said, oh, that's anti-Semitic, how dare you? Now they're cabinet has said, yeah, we're going to take Gaza. It's a conquest. So now they've started another offensive war in Iran. They'll pretend to be the victims. That's what they always do. Oh, my God. So I had to start a war for self-defense. Nonsense. Garbage. Just like you said, 33 years. They even say any day now Iran's going to have nukes. It was a lie. Netanyahu went on Fox News over the weekend, admitted they weren't even close to having it within a year. Then they said, oh, it's because of ballistic missiles. The ambassador there again referred to the ballistic missiles. An incredible number of countries have ballistic missiles. Is Israel going to attack all of them? Is Israel going to invade all of them and then pretend that it's self-defense? How many? And then they talk about, oh, we try so hard to not have civilian deaths, and then American media plays along. No, they killed hundreds of civilians in Tehran. So they always kill civilians. They always kill more civilians than their opponents while pretending that they care so much about civilians. They're the ones starting all the wars. We all have eyes and ears. We just saw them start this war. And every time American media plays along and pretends that there's a fantasy land where Israel's the victim, and they, oh my God, they just had to attack yet another Middle Eastern neighbor. They just had to take Gaza. So almost when you hear an Israeli official speaking, they're lying. They're lying almost 100% of the time.
I mean,
well, hold on. This is so. That's why Cenk loses credibility a lot, because all he does is just shout and get his blood pressure high for no damn reason. And, you know, it makes no sense, because he can never denounce and condemn actions by Hamas or Iran. Never condemns. He has to be asked 20 times, and then he'll say, yeah, that's wrong. But Israel is evil. So that's the problem, right? He's never objective. He's got a clear agenda with, I don't know how, but, you know, he's very much in favor of Iran and Hamas, etc. Very much in favor. His opinions are always in favor of that. It's unfortunate, but it is. And he's saying right now there is no threat. There is nothing. How can you say that? How can you say there is no threat? Iran has called for America's death, has called for Israel's death. If they get to have a nuclear weapon, what are we talking about? It's plain and simple. Israel attacked nuclear weapon facilities where they were building these weapons, and they have the uranium and all that. They attacked those areas. They have been telling people in Tehran to leave. Right now, as we're reporting, right now we're live, Fox News is showing all of the cars. Trump said the same thing, evacuate Tehran. And they have been evacuating. People are leaving Tehran because, why? Did the Iranian regime tell them leave? Evacuate because the Americans and the Israelis are attacking us? No, it was President Trump's Truth Social post that got them leaving. You know, in the warnings from this side of the fence, telling them leave because they are not the target. The target is the regime, the terrorist regime that are governing Iran at the moment. Let's continue.
I'm going to come to Ben. I'm going to come to Ben Ferguson to respond. All I would say is, clearly, when you have the leader of Iran, the Ayatollah, who's gone on record as saying he wants to get rid of Israel, and when you have Hamas in Gaza, who are also wedded to getting rid of Israel, it's not completely irrational that they would feel that they are under threat. Now, you and I have debated a lot. The way they've gone about things in Gaza is markedly different how they've gone about things in Iran and with Hezbollah. But I don't think you can pretend that Israel is not under threat from either Iran or Hamas. Ben Ferguson.
Yeah, what he just said omitted one massive aspect of the conversation. There was an attack on Israel. There was the kidnapping and the torturing and the raping and the murdering of innocent people that were gathering to have a fun weekend. The idea that he is forgetting what happened on October 7th and acting like Israel just woke up on a random Tuesday and decided to start attacking Gaza is absolute anti-Semitic insanity. We know what started this. And the second part of this, he says, hey, are they going to attack everybody in the world that has ballistic missiles? I lock my doors at my house every night for the people that might be right outside of my house. and you have someone that is saying, we want to annihilate you from the river of the sea, and chants death to Israel, and says they want to murder you because you are Jewish, and to act as if they don't have a right to defend themselves, and to attack Gaza after you have a massive terrorist network, an underground tunnel system that allows for them to go after you every single night, where you have to have an iron dome to protect and defend. So everything you just said, it, with all due respect, is absolute propaganda for the terrorists, because you admitted the fact that Israel was attacked first, that started the whole damn thing.
Okay.
No.
Matthew Said.
No, that's not.
Hang on, Cenk. Hang on,
What
Cenk.
I heard was propaganda for a terrorist just now from Ben. The terrorist state of Israel, who's been occupying the
Who planned the attack and who supported the attack on October 7th?
Why don't you let them go? Why don't you let a foreign people go? How much do you want to oppress and humiliate and murder them? Now you're going to murder Iranians. And by the way, Ben, I think you forgot. You're an American, not an Israeli. Act like an American, not an Israeli. What are you, a foreign agent? Why are you working for a foreign government? Why don't you care about American interests?
I don't work for a foreign government.
We got no interest in this war.
All right.
I guess he just doesn't get it, does he? I mean, and people who are stubborn just won't get it. How come it is in the interest of America if a terrorist regime has a nuclear weapon? Because they can just attack the United States of America in one button. So how is that hard to understand? And Cenk so that means we only talk about American issues. So what are we doing here? What is Cenk talking about? Israel and Gaza, or Israel versus Iran? What are we talking about? These childish comments make no sense.
Again, I have an interest in people being able to live a life without fear of bombs coming into their backyard, hitting their apartments, hitting their homes from a terrorist organization. Iran is a part of that,
Gaza,
and you know it.
And all of the Middle Eastern neighbors of Israel, they live in fear of Israel, the terrorist state attacking
Israel
them 24/7.
doesn't go on the
all
offensive.
Israel
They
ever does is attack their neighbors and take their land.
All right. Time out.
Why did you admit the?
I have one question about it.
Cenk, I've known you for a long time. One question: why did you admit in your opening statement that Israel was attacked on October the 7th? Why did you not mention it one time? Because that is the fact that you cannot bring up, because that is what started the catalyst of where we are today. You know it, so you didn't mention it because you want to indict Israel, acting like Israel woke up and decided to start attacking people. It's bullshit.
All right, listen, I do want to let the other two panelists come in. Cenk, you'll get a chance to come back.
58 years of brutal occupation,
Cenk,
and you think it started on October 7th?
Let's not go back to the whole 75 years.
Still
it's 50 years also of the Iranian regime, and he doesn't condemn that.
Murdering Palestinians, still murdering Palestinian children for sport.
Gentlemen, there are four panelists, please.
So, okay, you love genocide,
right,
I got it.
There are four panelists, guys, there are four panelists. You can come back on in a second and have further thoughts. Matthew Said, you wrote a great column at the weekend, and you were talking, and I thought it was very striking to me, about the difference between Vladimir Putin rattling his nuclear saber, because, as you pointed out, he's an extremely materialistic guy who's amassed hundreds of billions of illicit gains at the expense of his people, and he's the last person that would want to actually die for his country by pressing nuclear buttons, which would lead to his immediate vaporization. I've been saying that for ages. However, it is a different thing when it comes to Iran. There will be people there with very fundamentalist ideals who might think, if they're cornered, who might think if there's nothing else they think can get them through, who might think nothing of using a nuclear weapon if it came to it. And with the same kind of nihilistic attitude that we saw from Al-Qaeda, that we saw from ISIS and so on.
That's right. I mean, just a couple of quick points. Firstly, I like to think of myself as broadly pro-Israel, but I think, like you, feel that the destruction that has been visited upon Gaza is a moral, political and strategic calamity. When it comes to Iran, the reason I think that the logic of nuclear deterrence won't work is because they are, many of them in the regime, religious fanatics. They believe they have absolute truth. And the psychology of that is very interesting. It means that anyone who doesn't subscribe to their truth is an infidel, and that they are wrong. And they glorify martyrdom and believe that if they can take down infidels, they will go through a door into paradise where they will be blessed forever. And I grew up in the 1980s. My father was born as a Shia Muslim, and I followed the Iran-Iraq war extremely closely. And viewers might be interested that the clerics, the fanatics who took over after the 79 revolution, indoctrinated young, innocent children that they were supposed to protect and asked them to walk and often run into minefields and blow themselves up. And they were then depicted in government propaganda as heroes, their limbs strewn across battlefields that many of us have now forgotten about. That, to me, is a death cult of great danger, not just to Israel, but to their own people. Because if they acquire a nuclear weapon and they visit one upon Israel, as they have claimed they would do, Ahmadinejad said Israel must be wiped from the pages of history. The supreme leader described it as a cancer. Call me old-fashioned, but I take these people's words. I take them at their word, if I can put it that way. But also a danger to the Iranian people who would die in a counterstrike. And by the way, my views of the regime in Iran are corroborated by 70% of the Iranian people, a fantastic people, an ancient civilization, most of whom have been immiserated by this regime that has also destabilized the wider region through proxies and Hamas and Hezbollah. And as you say, Hamas is genocidal. So one can have, I think, an approach of saying, yeah, Israel have got things wrong. Of course they have. The person who was on before the ambassador doesn't seem to be able to admit that. But my goodness, when Israel goes after the regime in Tehran, not the Iranian people, the regime, I think all right-minded people should support it wholeheartedly.
100%. 100%. And this guy, Cenk, he just can't put his bias aside. He just cannot do it. And that is the issue that I have with him. The gentleman right there explained exactly what is wrong with this regime and how they have terrorized their own people and threatened to terrorize everybody else, especially America, Israel, and beyond. And Cenk Uygur will never admit that. He just won't. And it's unbelievable to me how somebody can just be so oblivious to what's going on. It just doesn't make sense to me. And so, I don't know. We're going to continue with this reaction here, but let's go with George Galloway, as today he was presented with Piers Morgan, in Piers Morgan Uncensored, and they had a fierce debate. So let's react to that one as well, as he basically walks out at the end and just didn't want to keep talking to Piers. So let's take a watch.
Of all talk shows and former British MP, George Galloway. George, you were listening there to Naftali Bennett. What was your response to that interview?
Well, you did a good job as his Alistair Campbell to him as Tony Blair. I hope he remembers you if he does get into the Prime Minister's seat. I'm frankly astounded that you did not ask him about the bombing of the Iranian state TV station just a couple of hours ago, the mass murder of tea ladies, technicians, journalists and broadcasters. I can't believe that you didn't know about that. And indeed, Professor
Actually, I don't know about that.
was...
You've just told me that. So that's the answer to your question. I didn't know about that. I've been on air.
Well, you really need to be better briefed.
Well,
you're
okay,
interviewing a guy that
you can have your views about that.
This is
in answer
very
to your
important.
question, I didn't know. So that's the answer to your question.
Well, you should have known.
Okay, well, you're a better journalist than me. You're a better broadcaster than me. I didn't know.
Professor Marandi was in that building. I don't know if he's dead, but the story is that he was in that building to do an interview with you, and I very much hope that that is not true. And I very much hope that he is still alive.
He told me that was true. He told me that he'd been told to leave, but had decided to stay and do the interview, in which all he did was call me a liar, a coward, and a genocide enabler.
So you did know about the bombing of the Iranian TV station?
No, there was no bombing going on when I interviewed him, obviously, or I would have stopped the interview.
Piers, there's mass casualties.
Yes, George.
In the Iranian
you asked me if I knew
station.
It was going on when I interviewed him. I didn't.
Well, it's a disgrace that you did not know.
Well, I didn't, or I would have stopped.
Because you might have been able to ask.
If I'd known, I would have stopped the interview, obviously.
Well, this is going to grow and grow as an issue, Piers. You may very well be in difficulty here.
I won't be in any difficulty at all. Why don't we get on with the interview?
One thing you did know is that Israel has scores, if not hundreds, of nuclear weapons, and you did not mention it. Why is Israel allowed illegally to hold scores, if not hundreds, of nuclear weapons in defiance of the law, uninspected by any agency in Dimona? And reports today from Dimona are that they are currently modernizing their nuclear fleet. Don't you think that would have put in a better perspective this issue of nuclear weapons? The reason I know you know it is because the brave Jewish whistleblower Mordechai Vanunu, who blew the whistle on Israel's nuclear weapons, came first to the Daily Mirror and was betrayed by your enemy and mine, Robert Maxwell, to the Mossad, and then spent 22 years in prison in solitary confinement, and turned up in the courtroom with his jaws wired together like Hannibal Lecter, so he couldn't tell the courtroom what he'd told the Daily Mirror. Finally, the story appeared in Andrew Neil's Sunday Times, but only after Maxwell had betrayed him to the Mossad. So this issue of nuclear weapons, according to Tulsi Gabbard, Iran is not seeking to build a nuclear weapon.
Why would you believe them?
February.
Why would you believe them?
Well, I believe Tulsi Gabbard.
But why do you believe Iran?
No, I'm believing Tulsi
given
Gabbard.
The atomic
here.
agency,
I'll come on to Iran.
Given that the atomic agency,
why do you want to dodge Tulsi Gabbard?
You've talked and talked and talked. Let me get a question in. The atomic agency, as you know, brought out a report in the last few days. It made it clear that Iran had lied, obfuscated, denied access, not allowed enough inspections, and that it now got uranium enriched to 60%, which is a massive stage forward from where they were at 3% a few years ago to now 60%. And the move from that to being able to create a nuclear weapon is actually much closer and therefore more potentially imminent as a threat. And I'm just curious why you would trust Iran as far as you could throw it, the regime, not the people, the regime, when they are clearly accelerating their nuclear program, clearly accelerating their enrichment program.
Piers,
why would you not be concerned about that?
Piers, I trust Tulsi Gabbard's Director of National Intelligence.
You do?
Don't you?
Well, to be honest, right now, Tulsi Gabbard has not been a part of the conversations and meetings with Donald Trump in the Situation Room. There's a little bit of controversy on that situation alone. She is the intelligence director, so it's kind of weird that she's not part of that. She did say that Iran, she doesn't think Iran is building nuclear oil, but you go from 6%, 3% to 60%. I mean, in a matter of what, 5 years, somewhere around that frame. I mean, what are we talking about? That's a pretty good advanced. That is alarming. In such a short amount of time, the amount of uranium that they have been able to gather. Still not enough to make nuclear bomb, but still that advancement is worrying. And so, just a little bit on what George Galloway said about Israel. Nobody talks about Israel having nuclear weapons illegally. Nobody against the law, whatever. That could be true that they have nuclear weapons. I think they do. Is it against the law? I don't know. But regardless, or not regardless of the law, they should follow the law, clearly. But Israel hasn't been threatening to blow up people because of their religious beliefs. The Iranian regime has done that. So I don't understand the comparison there.
Well, don't you do? I'm surprised you do.
I'm very much hoping she'll be the next president, Piers. But I trust her. Don't you?
I don't know. I've interviewed her once in my life. I don't know whether to trust everything she says or not.
Well, you know that Donald Trump appointed her the Director of National Intelligence. Why would you doubt her?
Look,
Isn't Trump your friend?
I'm not doubting her or trusting her or untrusting her.
Does he appoint liars?
I'm asking you why you trust the Iranian regime when they say they're not wanting to build a nuclear bomb.
Well, you're actually asking the wrong person for this reason. If I was running Iran, I would long ago have had a nuclear weapon because Israel has scores or hundreds of them. And as you've just heard, is determined to bring about regime change in Iran. So you won't get me to clutch my pearls about Iran having nuclear weapons.
Why wouldn't you want regime change in Iran out of interest, given what a draconian, repressive, despicable regime it is?
I have this old-fashioned view. You once had it also in relation to the country next door, Iraq, that the leadership in any country is the business of the people in that country. But if you've got a nuclear-armed superpower trying to change your regime, frankly, you're an idiot if you don't arm yourself to the maximum that you are capable of.
So you want to see Iran arming itself with nuclear weapons?
Well, Israel's got hundreds.
No, I'm asking you about Iran.
You've just been talking about the slaughter of the...
I'm asking you about Iran.
In Gaza. Well,
would you, George Galloway, it sounds to me like you, George Galloway, unlike the rest of the world, would like to see Iran arming itself with nuclear weapons, to which I say you've lost your marbles.
Piers, there you go again. Unlike the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Do you really think that you speak for the rest of the world?
Well, I mean, certainly, if we're talking about Russia, I mean, the only people that wouldn't want to that would like Iran to have nuclear weapons would be the communist regimes and the dictatorships, basically North Korea, Russia, etc. So what are we talking about?
Well, probably not China or Russia or North Korea. So let's take those four countries out of it, or Pakistan.
Listen,
But
Iran
actually, yes, most of the world has a real problem with the concept of Iran being a nuclear power, apart from you, who thinks they should have loads of nukes.
No, it's not just for me. Iran is presently the hero of the vast majority of people in the world.
Oh, rubbish.
And it's
absolute
the fact
rubbish.
That you can't see
what a load of absolute
Piers,
nonsense.
Take your eyes off the posterior of the tiny part of the world, which is the Western world.
You think that
Africa
currently
is with
most
Iran.
of the world, you think
Latin
the rest of the world
America is with Iran.
You think the rest of the world
China is with Iran.
Yeah,
Russia is with Iran.
Russia,
All
China,
the Arabs are with Iran.
Russia, China,
Take
any
your
other
nose out of the ass
North Korea
of the tiny number of people that you think are the world. They're not the world. The world is 8 billion people.
Right.
You're speaking for the little clique that leads a tiny fraction of fewer than 1 billion of the people of the world.
So just to be clear,
cannot see
as
beyond the end of your nose.
As I suggested, then you want to put up as a defence for Iran that they're supported by China, Russia. Did you mention North Korea?
That's a lot of people, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. But are they the kind of people, in terms of their own regimes, that we should be taking as good supporters of these benevolent people in Tehran?
You're living under Keir Starmer's regime, for God's sake. You're going to blame the British for Keir Starmer? The French are living under little Macron. When did you get the right to decide that 7/8 of the world's population cannot be considered valid because you, Piers Morgan, don't like their regimes? Listen, there's something else you didn't mention, and you must also have known about that. Unless you switch your mobile off at 10 o'clock at night, you already know that Iran is giving Israel a bloody good hiding every single night.
It's not, though, is it?
It's not,
though, is it?
You described it all
it's not, though.
as a wonderful military operation.
As always,
let
me answer you. As always, the Iranian regime has put out apocalyptic statements about this will be the annihilation of Israel and everything. It's like it did the last time. And you know what happened last time? Nothing. They fired a few rockets,
Piers.
and the dome dealt with them. This time they've got a few. This time they've got a few missiles have got through the dome. But the idea. Hang on, let me finish my question. The idea that the Israeli Air Force have managed to inflict this kind of catastrophic damage on military commanders, nuclear scientists, nuclear sites, and all of this, and have control of the airwaves in Tehran. And the only response so far has been a few missiles that have got past the dome.
Missiles?
You say they've been pounding them. They've not been pounding Israel.
Have you seen Haifa?
They've not been pounding Israel.
You are astounded. This is something else you don't know. You didn't know about Marandi. You didn't know about the TV station.
I knew what Marandi told me.
I knew what Marandi told me. Israel.
I knew what Professor Marandi told me. Just to be clear,
hang on. You don't know about it.
Just to be clear,
I'll tell you who I believe.
Just to be
You're
clear
asking about belief.
Just to be clear,
I believe the mayor of Tel Aviv.
Sorry, if I may finish responding to you.
Can I quote an Israeli? I believe the mayor of Tel Aviv, a former director of intelligence in the Israeli army, now the elected mayor of Tel Aviv, who says this has got to stop. We cannot win this war. That's the mayor of Tel Aviv. I can believe him.
I see zero evidence. Piers Morgan. There is zero evidence that Israel can't win this war as things stand. Zero.
Well,
most of it, 90% of the damage is being inflicted by Israel onto Iran.
Pure nonsense, Piers. Why are you
so deluded, George? Why are you begging Donald Trump? Why is your pathological hatred of all things Israel made you so deluded?
Is this something else you don't know? Do you know that Tucker Carlson and Steve Bannon are right this minute on TV debating how if Trump gives in to Netanyahu's begging him to join in and save the day, that it will be the end of the Trump presidency, that it will split MAGA down the middle? Do you not know that either?
Here's the thing about that. Trump is president. There's nothing going to be changed about that. So what are you talking about? He can't be president again. He won't be president again. He's trying to do the best thing for America right now at this moment. And the best thing for America's interest right now is for Iran not to have nuclear weapons. And if we have to bomb them, bomb those areas, not the people. He's told the people to evacuate. They are doing that as we speak. And by the way, bombing Israel just seems very calm, cool, and collected right now as we got live images from this is Tel Aviv right now as we speak, right here. This is Tel Aviv. Everybody's sleeping. Everybody's having a cool time. Of course, Iran has been able to land a few punches, but at the end of the day, it's part of it. And Israel, I mean, between the two armies, I mean, come on. We cannot compare. Iran has nothing on Israel at the moment. Now, talking about Marandi and his interview, I will be talking about it in just 1 second, folks. Let me see. Oh, never mind. Let me go with. Let me see. Let me go with the interview of Marandi and Piers Morgan.
Actually, for your reaction to this next interview I'm about to do, it's with the Iranian academic and former advisor to Iran's nuclear negotiating team, Mohammad Marandi. Professor Marandi, thank you for coming back on Uncensored. This is a pretty terrible situation for Iran. It looks like Israel has caught your military napping, caught your leaders napping. They've been asleep, it seems quite literally in some cases, as Israel launched this surprise attack, which has been so far stunningly successful and had comparatively small retaliation from Iran, which suggests that maybe you don't have the capability to do much about what is happening to your country.
Well, first of all, I have to point out some nonsense that your guest said. I fought in the Iran-Iraq war as a volunteer, and I was part of the war effort for 6 years, on and off. I was wounded 4 times, and I survived 2 chemical attacks. There was no children being pushed over minefields. These are myths that Westerners, Western media, Western elites have been promoting for many years in order to demonize Iranians and to portray us as fanatic. Right now, Piers, your friends, your Zionist allies, they have bombed buildings belonging to the Iranian television. I'm in one of those buildings. And the guard right now is standing outside the door telling me to leave. And I was yelling at him, telling him to go. I'm going to finish this interview. We are not intimidated by you, your government, the United States, or the Israeli regime. This was a blatant act of aggression. People were murdered in Iranian radio and television just minutes ago, and I tweeted it, and your colleagues have seen it. And this building is also a target. Your allies target journalists. Your allies have murdered over 200 journalists. And you are complicit in this genocide.
Well, let me respond to that, Professor.
You repeated the lie.
Listen, I've seen you, Professor. All due respect, Professor.
You are complicit.
All due respect, Professor. I've seen you doing this kind of shtick in the last few days on all sorts of shows. And let me just respond. The reason that I actually think that Israel has a right to do what it is doing with your regime is that your regime has been the fulcrum for terrorism in the Middle East now for decades. Through Hezbollah, through the Houthis, through Hamas, it has done whatever it can do to destabilize the region, to terrorize Israel and anyone else it doesn't like. It's a draconian, oppressive, appalling regime which is deeply unpopular with many Iranians. And every time I've seen you appear in the last few days, you've had a big smirk grin on your face, as if somehow you know better than everybody else, and that somehow we are misinterpreting your rulers and your regime, and that you're all a bunch of really nice people who have nothing but good intentions for the rest of the world, when in fact it's the complete opposite. And finally, Israel has said enough. And they're coming after your nuclear capability because your own ruler, the Ayatollah, has made it clear that he would very much like to see Israel removed from this world. And if you hear that and you're in Israel, then you're going to take action to stop that happening. So that would be my response to you.
Well, if your rant is over, I would point out that you are a dishonest person and a dishonest so-called journalist.
You can do ad hominem stuff as much as you like.
But you were too cowardly. Be quiet for a moment. Be quiet for a moment and let me speak.
You don't tell me how to behave on my own show. If you're going to call me a coward, if you're going to call me a coward and a liar, then I won't be quiet on my own show. Especially not from someone like you who spews disinformation.
I am the one in this building that has been evacuated, and I'm only sitting here because of you. So allow me to speak.
Well, keep the ad hominem attached to yourself then. If you're going to call me a liar and a coward, I'm going to jump in and take you on. So show some respect or don't bother.
You are a coward. You are a coward. You did not come to Iran when I invited you, so you have no right to.
I wouldn't trust going to Iran. Why on earth would I trust going to Iran? As your guest,
your guest said nonsense about.
As your guest in Iran, with your contacts with the Iranian regime. I wouldn't trust that as far as I can throw it.
So don't comment about Iran if you don't come here.
Well, let me give you some facts about your country. Let me give you some facts and see where I'm wrong here. Women face severe restrictions when it comes to marriage, divorce, inheritance, child custody, and so on. Compulsory veiling, punishable by flogging and prison sentences. Women punished for bad dressing, defined as exposing any body parts below the neck. Women banned from certain professions. They can't be judges. They can't be they can't be in certain positions in government. A ban on independent political parties, civil society organizations, trade unions. LGBT people suffer systematic discrimination and violence. Closing shops that have so-called improperly veiled customers. Authorities censor media, jam certain television channels, continue to block or filter mobile apps, social media platforms. Executions, including those of children, torture and other ill treatment are widespread and systematic. State television can often air torture-tainted confessions, arresting and sentencing people who break fast during Ramadan. Anyone who speaks out, protests against the regime, can be subjected to the death penalty, flogging, prison terms and other severe penalties. It doesn't sound like a great place for me to visit, with all due respect, Professor Marandi. So you can tell me that I'm a coward and I'm a liar, and I can tell you that you prop up, personally, you go on the airwaves and you disingenuously prop up and grotesquely defend a terrible regime, which is now getting, as many people see, its final comeuppance for constantly threatening Israel with getting a bomb and taking it out. And that's what this is about. You know it and I know it. And you also know that your regime has propped up the Houthis and Hezbollah and Hamas It has been the octopus with its tentacles of terrorism spreading all over the Middle East. So you can call me what you like, but what you can't do is deny what I've just said.
You are a coward.
So you keep saying. So you keep saying.
You are a coward.
That's all you can say, isn't it? That's all you've got. That's all you've got. Do one of your smoke grins.
You helped enable genocide in Gaza for 2 months. You don't want to let me talk. You don't want me to talk.
I do, but if all you're going to do is call me a coward and a liar, then why should I keep listening to that? It's pointless. It's what you've been doing on the airwaves for days.
You say not because you say nonsense.
Really? What was nonsense about anything? What was nonsense about anything I said?
Everything. But you just rant on, and you think this way you can convince your audience that while your allies are murdering Iranians, while your allies have murdered
your regime has been responsible for mass murder. Your regime has been responsible for mass murder.
Let me talk. You are afraid. You are afraid of letting me talk because you know that your narrative is falling apart.
Your narrative is that I'm a coward and a liar. Have you got anything else in your tank? Any other argument other than ad hominem?
Tweets a couple of weeks ago. You won't let me talk. You're afraid of letting me talk. You're afraid.
I'm not afraid of you, Professor Marandi, but you look to me like you're afraid because you know now that the game is up.
Coward,
Iran's terrorism game is up.
I'm in IR. I am in the Iranian radio television building, and it has been emptied because they say they're going to bomb this building. And I stayed here for you. And you are responsible for justifying these criminal acts. And those colleagues of yours in Iran who are true journalists who died today, their blood is on your hand. And
they're not on my hands because I'm not part of the Israeli government or the IDF.
Of Gaza. You are too cowardly to let me talk.
You're just talking nonsense. You're talking nonsense.
Let me talk.
He uses his time to insult. You know, he's talking about all these risks that he's taking because he stayed in the building. Well, talk. You know, I guess defend Iran and the regime, I guess, because that's what he does. Defend the regime, defend terrorism. That's what this guy does. He lives well. He lives comfortable. He's got money, I'm sure. And then, but the rest of the Iranian people, they're broke. They're decimated. They're under this poor, terrible regime, and they have to. They have no choice. So anyway,
as a coward, I wouldn't have had you on. I wouldn't have had you on if I was a coward. But I knew what you would try and do. You try and do this with all the journalists that you talk to, and I'm afraid it doesn't work anymore. Your shtick doesn't work anymore. You defend the indefensible. You go ad hominem on every host you ever talk to. You were at it yesterday with a Sky News presenter, and I'm not going to take it from you. Sorry, just not going to.
I don't care. You're a genocide enabler. That's what you are.
And you're a terrorism defender. You're a terrorism defender.
You have blood on your hands.
Yeah, you defend a terrorist regime. That's what you do.
All the perfume of Arabia will never clean those hands of yours, Piers. Kill. Keep on the killing. Keep on justifying murder. Keep on demonizing Iranians and Palestinians and Lebanese and keep on killing. Keep on.
I demonize terrorists. What I do is demonize terrorists. And the main fulcrum, the main fulcrum of terrorism, the main terrorism for terrorism, which has been incredibly damaging to the people, to Palestinians, to Lebanese, to Iranians, has been the Iranian regime.
You are a coward and an enabler of terrorism.
Okay, you've nothing else to say. Professor Marandi,
after the Israeli regime took Lebanon.
Professor Marandi, it's good to end with one of your smirks, because they really play well with an audience, I can tell you. When they see you smirking away, it really is a good look.
You're too cowardly to let me talk.
Yeah.
You're too cowardly.
Because all you've got to say is to attack me. All you care about is attacking me. That's not talking.
You
That's
won't
not an
let me
interview.
explain anything.
Yeah.
You won't let me explain anything. You won't let me explain anything.
You don't want to explain. You want to just call me a liar and a coward and a genocide enabler.
Explain that
Have you got
Hezbollah
anything
invaded
else?
after Israel
Anything
invaded
else?
Lebanon and captured the. Yes, you are. You are lying.
Okay.
You are lying about your
All right,
rant was
Professor
all lies
Marandi,
about Iran.
thank you for the interview. I wish you a safe. I do, genuinely.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for joining me.
I don't think so.
I appreciate it. I'm going to go back to the panel now.
Boy, how boring. Professor Marandi, he is literally a spokesman, very much in contact with the Iranian regime. It is shameful. It is embarrassing. And listen, if you want to defend what I guess you can defend whatever you want. That's what we in the West believe, right? Not so much Iran. But I guess you can defend whatever you want to defend. But the fact is that this guy gets on Piers Morgan's show. He doesn't even want to do that. He doesn't even want to defend what he's supposed to, what he's paid to defend, basically, which is the Iranian regime. He's there to just attack Piers Morgan, calling him genocidal, genocide enabler, and all of that stuff. Listen, journalism is to talk about what's happening and give an opinion if you need to, share information, factual information, but that's it. You know, they don't pull triggers. They're not responsible for the actions of the IDF, of American military, or any of that. The responsible people are who are doing and committing those actions. Netanyahu and below, Trump and below. So, you know, this guy is a joke. It's a joke of a man. But I'm sure we'll hear more of him. I don't know. But regardless, let us know what you think in the comment section below. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, follow on Rumble as well. I know a lot of people are watching there. So please do us a favor. Do that. Help us out. Let us know also what time is good for these live shows, because people voted for 8 p.m. Central Time, but they start joining when we get going around 9 p.m. So let us know what time works best for you. We're going to have to end it on this one. With this video. It's been a lovely show. Thank you so much for your support. This show is where freedom of speech reigns. You can come on, have your say. It doesn't matter whether you are pro-Palestine, pro-Israel, whoever. Now, listen, I got my personal opinion, and we're probably going to have a share. We're going to share opinions, and that's that. But do that. Please comment in the comment section below and involve yourself, whatever you believe in. And we discuss all things going on in the world, latest trending news. And right now, of course, Israel versus Iran, possibly the U.S. involved in the next few hours. We're going to have to monitor what's happening there. But there we go. So let us know what you think in the comment section below. Subscribe to the channel. Follow on Rumble. And also follow us on social media, on TikTok as well. We're doing well there on TikTok. So follow us there. Follow us on X as well. All the links in the description below. We will see you all on the next one. Bye-bye.